I now call the Huntsville City Council meeting to order. If all that are able to and like to, please rise for the invocation led by Wanda, Gail, Campbell, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dr. Robinson.
In this moment, we respectfully invite everyone present to be fully focused for the purpose of this council and to call forth the wisdom of those who serve. We ask each one here to be open and receptive, to receive the inner guidance from the supreme source of all of our life. Tonight, we state the clear intention for individuals to set aside desires for personal gain in deference to the recognition that intelligent, informed, and collaborative decisions can be made by placing a priority on the best interest of the entire city. Each member here retains awareness of cooperation in the highest caliber and implemented in ways that enrich our collective community. This council makes win-win decisions based on meeting the most significant needs of the people of Huntsville, with clear appreciation for diversity as an uncontested strength. Here will be shown equal respect for each concern voiced. The council also conducts the business at hand with care and compassion. From a place of deep gratitude, we acknowledge that we as citizens are always better working together than any individual can ever be acting alone. We make a concerted effort to see from a wide range of perspectives, and we proceed now with unity of purpose, harmony of spirit, and gratefulness for the life itself that we are given, and so it is.
Take allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. The minutes from the January 8th regular meeting have been received, and they'll stand approved if there's no objections. We're now at resolutions and special recognitions. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is Coach Patterson out there? Coach? Coach has some young people, students in their area who have done great things, have worked hard for years and years and years, and had some great achievements that help our community be recognized. And Coach, would you like to tell us about it?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, and members of the council for the opportunity to recognize these young people and their accomplishments. We have 3 high school students tonight that we're going to recognize for all state accomplishments. They all 3 come from different schools, and we'll start first with Sarah Margaret Cimino. If you'd come on up, please, ma'am. Sarah Margaret is a sophomore at Randolph, and she is a state champion in 2 events. She's a 100-yard butterfly and 500-yard freestyle. Is that correct? Okay, so she may be back. She's a 10th grader, so she's got an opportunity to come back and see us again the next couple of years. So congratulations to you. Thank you. I would like.
Do you have parents in the audience?
I think we have some parents and coaches here. If y'all would raise your hand, and she's got a good support team here tonight. She's got several people that came.
She's also a state record holder.
State record holder.
In the 100 butterfly.
In the 100 butterfly. How about that? Congratulations. Wow. And next I'd like to bring up Taylor Gill. Taylor is a senior at Madison Academy. And Taylor is going to be an Ole Miss Rebel next year. She's going to be playing volleyball for Ole Miss. So she's all-state volleyball. No, Madison, didn't you lose in the finals? Is that correct? They lost in the championship. So they had to have a great year just to get to that point. So congratulations to you and your teammates, and we're looking forward to following you at Ole Miss next year. Thank you. Okay. All right. David Teitge. Coach, did I get that right? David is a senior at Westminster Christian, and he is the first team all-state place kicker for Class 4A. Is that right? Yes. Class 4A. Do you deflate the football when you kick? No, sir. Okay. Just want to make sure that we didn't have to check him on the sideline. But I think you're also a soccer player?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so congratulations to you and Coach Hooks, and you have family members here tonight. Thank y'all for coming down, and congratulations on a great year. let me say, also, we had, I failed to mention, Aubrie Huddleston from Grissom High School was also first team All-State. I think she's a junior at Grissom, and she had a prior commitment tonight, could not be here, and we'll make sure she gets her certificate.
Is Randy Cunningham here? Randy Cunningham, I think he's right outside the door. And if Ken Binion, if y'all would get Ken Binion too. If y'all two would come forward, please. First, Randy, come on up. First off, it's not often that you find people who have worked for one employer for 30 years. And Randy Cunningham has worked for the city of Huntsville for 30 years. He handles our inspections department. And for 30 years, he has come in and day out to make this city a better place. And Randy, I want to say thank you and present you with your 30-year pin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Ken, I can't believe it's been 5 years. It seems like it was yesterday when you came in. But Ken Binion, who is our Community Development Director, has been here for 5 years now. And Ken, I want to thank you for a great 5 years and thank you for all your efforts. Thank you, guys. I just wanted to surprise you tonight. All right, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. And Sarah Margaret, this will be a good time to go. We have two resolutions for adoption only. 2A is a resolution recognizing the 2015 Founders Day of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity, Inc. to be held at the National Speleological Society on January 24th, 2015 at 6 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Culver, second by Mr. Kling. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Mr. Culver, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, Mr. President, I will be presenting this resolution on Saturday night to the distinguished brothers of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, which I am also delighted to be a member of. Thank you, Mr. President.
Great. B is a resolution commemorating the life of Kenneth J. Dupree, former employee of the Huntsville Police Department. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Culver, second by Mr. Kling. Discussion. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Mr. Culver.
Thank you. May I have the mic, please? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask Miss Marsha Dupree to come up, please, and family members and friends who would like to come up with her as well. It's an honor and a privilege for me to present this resolution to you on behalf of the Mayor and City Council. I would like to read this resolution and get it in our records. Your late husband and I worked together as police officers years ago. Resolution number 15-25. Whereas the City Council and the Mayor of the City of Huntsville, Alabama, are apprised of the passing of Kenneth Joseph Dupree, who served as a Huntsville police officer for some 24 years and retired in 1998 as an investigator in the Criminal Investigative Division. And whereas Ken was a native son, born, raised, and lived his entire life in Huntsville, Madison County, Alabama. He served his country in the United States Army from May 1971 until April 1974, including a tour of duty in Germany. For a number of years, he worked in the narcotics unit as an undercover agent and was responsible for many significant cases and seizures of illicit drugs. After transferring to the investigative division, Ken served as a larceny detective and again distinguished himself through his work ethics and dedication to duty. And whereas in 1978, Ken married Marcia Renfro, and they celebrated their 36th anniversary on September the 29th, 2014. Of all the seizures Ken made during his career, marrying Marcia was no doubt the most dynamic and enduring. And whereas in later years, Ken became quite known in the arena of songwriting. I didn't know that. He served as a master of ceremonies for the Songwriters Open Mic at the Coffee Tree Books and Brew for many years, where he was loved and appreciated by all who came through the door. He never met a stranger and was truly gracious and complimentary to all, regardless of their ability or talent level. His humor was appreciated, and most everyone was on the receiving end of one of his personalized jokes. And whereas Ken himself was an accomplished songwriter, although he had some problem with the writing part, he would often share a new song and someone would say, "Ken, give me those words and I will work up the music for you," only to find that the song was all in his head, not written anywhere. Another facet of songwriting is co-writing, and in this arena, Ken was certainly different. He did some of his best work in the shower. So if you were going to write with Ken, you had to go over to your modest or buy a bathing suit, one or the other. And whereas, most of all, Ken was a genuine, honest-to-goodness friend to many, stranger to none. He was the kind of friend who would literally give you his shirt, and if the size was wrong, he would go buy one. He was always upbeat, kind, unselfish, generous to a fault. He always had an amusing story or comment and was never angry with anyone. And whereas Ken was promoted to glory on December the 2nd, 2014, it was a loss felt by all who knew him. He made everyone a little better for having been acquainted with him. If you look up the term friend in the dictionary, you'll find Ken's picture right there. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council and the Mayor of the City of Huntsville, Alabama, that we wish to celebrate the life of Kenneth Dupree, a wonderful friend, co-worker. We recognize him as the example of truly living a dedicated life to helping those in need, regardless of their circumstances. He was deeply loved and will be profoundly missed. I present this to you with all honor and privilege. Thank you. If you would like to say a few words. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Culver. Under announcements tonight, 14A, the administration has asked that we take that up tonight by unanimous consent. So 14A has been asked for to be voted on tonight. We have no business with outside legal representation. We do have public hearings to be held. Now is the time and place for a public hearing on ordinance number 14-928, zoning newly annexed property lying west of Zert Road and on the east side of Arnett Road to Residence 2A District. This was set December 4th, 2014 at the regular council meeting. Ms. Nichols?
This property is approximately 3.19 acres. It's west of Zert Road and on the east side of Arnett Road. It's the property that's located in the hatched area here. This is newly annexed property. It's currently vacant land. The proposed zoning for this particular area is Residence 2A, which is consistent with the adjacent subdivision. This will be an additional phase of the existing Cambridge subdivision that's located here on the east side of this property.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Does anyone from the public wish to address the council on this particular issue? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Culver, second by Dr. Robinson. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Council members, on number 2, we are just going to have the public hearing tonight. The paperwork's not ready, so we're not voting. So we're just going to open the public hearing, listen to the public, and then close the public hearing. So now is the time and place for a public hearing on resolution number 14-956, approving of and assenting to vacation of and vacating a portion of National Boulevard and Meadowbrook Drive abutting the new Grissom High School campus. This was set December 18, 2014, regular council meeting. Mr. Joffron, if you could explain this for the public's benefit in case they want to speak to this issue.
Yes, Mr. President. This is a very small sliver of land at the tail end of National Boulevard as it currently exists, just beyond the intersection of National Boulevard and Meadowbrook Drive, behind the Hazeland Square Shopping Center where the new Grissom High School is being constructed. The vacation is just required in connection with this project. It does not serve any users and has been requested by the Huntsville City School System in connection with the construction of that project. The paperwork will be available and on the February 12th agenda.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to address the council on this particular issue? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. 3 now is the time and place for a public hearing in order to hear and consider all objections or protests, if any, for removal of nuisance at 2704 Sparkman Drive, Northwest Huntsville, Alabama. This was set January 8, 2015 at a regular council meeting. Mr. Binion?
Yes, on the January council meeting, we declared this particular property a public nuisance, and under state law 71-1320, we are required to have a public hearing to hear any objections at the next council meeting. We have posted signs on this property, and we are just here to, the first item is to hear if there are any objections, and if there are, then we're asking you for the permission on the next item to abate the nuisance.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone from the public wish to address the council on this particular item? Public hearing is now closed. 4 is a resolution ordering abatement of nuisance at 2704 Sparkman Drive, Northwest Huntsville, Alabama. The chair moves for approval. Second by Mr. Culver. Discussion? Council members, the picture say, tell the story. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have no public hearings to be set. We do have communications from the public. When I call your name, you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. Mr. Rusty Loisel.
Hello, my name is Rusty Loisel. I'm with Help the Homeless Veterans and Citizens. I live in Hearthstone Circle, South Huntsville. Actually, I have some pretty good news. We go out into the woods weekly, just about 4 or 5 days a week. And this week and last week, we've noticed a decrease in our homeless, which I want to attribute that to all of the organizations that we've finally, after pounding each other on the head, said, how about we all work together? It's amazing what you can accomplish whenever people start working together. There are people that they've actually gotten back with their families. Some of them have actually gotten jobs and moved into apartments or even trailers. They've done some sweat equity for people, and they've moved on, or they've moved out of town. But one way or another, the numerous camps that are around Huntsville, that a lot of folks don't even know that they're there, there's a minimal amount of people in those camps. Now, a lot of the organizations that, that they don't usually get out there in the woods hands-on with these people like we do, but we don't get paid a nickel, and, we don't get grant money and that stuff, so our motivation is not money. It is actually to try to get these people back on their feet and help them out. So that being said, we've noticed that there's quite a few people that have disappeared. And we've helped some of them get into housing, And hey, that's a tremendous thing, and I'm so happy. And the awareness now is so large, especially now that the city council and the city are saying, you know what, let's all step up and let's see what we can do to make this work. And those things are getting people off the street. And we're really happy to have organizations like the Foundations for Tomorrow and the Coupon Patrol and the Owens Crossroads Homemakers and Team Rocket Tri Club and Still Serving Veterans, Natch, the Housing Authority, and we really want to thank Joy of the Green Team and her crew for putting together these tremendous plastic bag mats that were made out of Walmart bags and Target bags and things like that. Those bags, number one, are not going into the landfill, and they are becoming so useful as mats where people can lay on these without laying in the mud or the rocks whenever they're in a tent. They are able to put them across muddy areas where they have to walk, and they can walk on these instead of getting their socks wet and things like that. So I've handed out probably 25, 30 of them in the last week and a half, and they're tremendous. Whoever came up with that idea, and I'm going to give Joy the compliment. She's probably the one that did it.
Sir, your time's up. Do you need extra time?
No, I just want to thank everybody for working with us, and let's keep this thing rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lyle Voiles?
Mr. President, may I approach the dais with these handouts?
Yes, if you'd like to.
My name is Lyle Voiles. I live at 7704 Teal Drive in Huntsville. Over the past 5 years, media cable companies in Huntsville have disconnected their cables from dwellings and simply left them hanging, or bundled up, as you see in those photos in front of you. This can be corroborated in numerous emails with photographs sent to Huntsville Utilities. In turn, Huntsville Utilities has always been quick to respond and work with the appropriate point of contact to have the cables removed. Often that coordination has been with the city of Huntsville, who in turn coordinated the effort. However, these combined efforts have not been successful in getting the cable media companies to comply with their own cable removal standards or supervise the performance of their technicians and stop the habit of leaving their cables hanging on the lines or bundled up on the ground or on the telephone post. Note in that left photo that the cables could easily be snagged by a passing vehicle. And note in the photo on the right that it hangs so low that a child could pull on it and damage the overhead cables that it's attached to. One would think that the media companies would be concerned with the safety concerns that are created by such poor deinstallation habits. Executives within several media companies have expressed their concern and are prepared to respond. Their involvement has been discouraged due to the plan developed between the City of Huntsville and Huntsville Utilities. My understanding of this plan is that it will identify the responsible media company and hold them accountable for supervising their technicians and stop the proliferation of these cable eyesores. Residents across the city are eager to know about this program and to know if the City of Huntsville will actually hold the cable companies accountable for compliance with cable removal standards. Is someone available, Mr. President, who can explain the recommended coordination process and confirm that the City of Huntsville is now focused on eliminating this unprofessional behavior?
Thank you. Mr. Hamilton, could you answer Mr. Voiles' question?
Yes, Mr. Russell. The process, which is a fairly new process, is exactly as we described to you by email a couple weeks ago. If citizens will submit these pictures and things that they see by Huntsville Connect, which is the most efficient way to communicate with us on these kind of requirements. The ITS is the department within the city that is managing and is responsible for this program. They will first work with Huntsville Utilities to confirm that they are not a utility cable. What we find is it's extremely rare that one of these would be from Huntsville Utilities, but we first give Huntsville Utilities the opportunity to confirm that it's not theirs. As Mr. Voiles says, almost all the time it's one of the cable companies or potentially a telephone company. But once Huntsville Utilities has confirmed that it's not theirs, and that the feedback I've gotten is that check normally happens within about 24 hours. ITS then gets the work order back from Huntsville Utilities, and they will go to the appropriate franchise holder that uses those poles and get them to fix it. So I think that there's a couple things that we need to do. One is we need concerned citizens like Mr. Voles to continue to use that system, and that is the bottom-up pressure on the cable companies through that system, so they will understand, the cable companies understand, that we will routinely insist on them getting this fixed. Secondarily, and it's something that Dr. Robinson and I have been communicating with on today by email, I'm going to work to get together with the cable companies themselves and talk directly about the systems they're using and what they're doing to supervise their subcontractors. Most of this work is actually done by subcontractors, but they're still responsible for their performance. It's still their customers that those subcontractors are serving, and obviously when they leave this kind of stuff, as you see in these pictures, and these are just a few examples amongst probably thousands across the city, those subcontractors are not serving those customers well. So we've obviously got to get it fixed. So I think, to also answer one of the questions you asked, Mr. Wallace, is yes, we do take it seriously, and we'll continue to work it. But I'd ask that not only you, but folks like you that are concerned about their neighborhoods to stay actively engaged through the Huntsville Connect system. That's the most efficient way for us to get that work order, quickly push it electronically to Huntsville Utilities, back to us, and then the appropriate people in ITS engage with the franchise holders who ultimately are responsible for this.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President,
Mr. Kling.
I could ask, Mr. Jofrion, do you have any idea when the cable TV franchise agreements would come back to the City Council? Because I think from time to time we have cable TV issues that come up, and I think there'd be some things that we'd like to talk about, as far as agreements or improving things, as far as what we've heard from consumers out there.
Sure, Mr. Kling and members of the council. Very good question. Both of the cable franchises, well, the primary cable franchises with Comcast and now WOW, both of them have expired. We have been attempting for some time to commence and renegotiations with both companies. You may recall that Comcast is in the middle of a process that may result in a new provider taking over for the Comcast services provided in Huntsville. If a merger goes through and a buyout goes through that has been proposed nationwide, that would result in a new provider being responsible for the service for Comcast. Given that, they really preferred not to negotiate for a new franchise before that decision is made or before that process is complete. With regard to WOW, we are still communicating with WOW. We had wanted to try to do a joint process where we negotiated with both companies at the same time to save money and to save time, and to end up with a similar document for both companies. But that has not proved to be fruitful in light of the merger and buyout. So we're pushing forward with WOW to try to get them to the table to go through that process. So if any members of the public have any input, if they've got any service issues that they want to be considered as part of those negotiations, now would be a good time to submit those issues to us.
Mr. President, may
Dr.
I just
Rollins.
also follow up on Mr. Hamilton's comments with regard to the hanging cables? The problem seems to be so widespread that it probably needs to be addressed not one shot at a time by Huntsville Connect, although that's a great way to document it. But I would really appreciate us being able to follow up on working with the companies all together, because as Mr. Joffrian just mentioned, these cable companies are sold one to another, and then the agreements change. I think the standards, the expectations, and the training may even change, and that may be part of what's happening here. So we just need to be very clear with these companies what our expectations and community standards are, and hope that they will then try to communicate that to their folks too.
I agree, and I intend to communicate with them, and Mr. Joffrion and I will work through what's the appropriate way to address them at the corporate level. I think some of the value of getting these work orders into them through Huntsville Connect to start setting them in the pocketbook when those subcontractors have to come back out and clean up messes they left behind. And so, hitting them where it hurts will help, I think.
Mr. President?
Mr. Kling.
I wonder, and I don't want to put Mr. Jofrion on the spot any more than I normally do, but, the concerns that Mr. Boyles has brought up, and I've heard that from people over in Triana Village and other West Huntsville neighborhoods. Could the city go through a process and institute a community development type of ordinance where if there's a complaint and the city contacts the cable company within a certain number of days, and the problem's not cleared up, then there could be a fine, or the city could come in and cut the cables themselves and then, charge the cable companies for what we have to spend.
Well, any customer service issues like that are supposed to be negotiated into the franchise, and there are federal standards, customer service standards, minimum standards that have to be met. There's kind of a limit on the upper end about what could be imposed, and all of that would have to be agreed upon by the franchise holder. It's not likely that any fines could be imposed, but at least not through that franchise ordinance. But what could happen is the city could pursue and develop a right-of-way management ordinance and use the right-of-way management as the tool for enforcing that in a way different and apart from the franchises themselves, and in a way that would apply to any user of the right-of-way. That's a much more effective tool in my view.
I'd be open if ITS or your office wanted to pursue that.
Great
Thank you, Mr.
suggestion.
President.
Thank you. Ms. Jackie Reed?
Good evening.
Good evening.
First thing I want to say is a concerned citizen asked me to ask the mayor if he'd get some new microphones right here. Either they're cutting me off or cutting everybody off, and they can't understand what's going on when we have these meetings. They're not happy with the microphones that you have here. She asked me to ask you all to do something about it. So I try to bring everything I can to you all. If they can't hear, I'm blaming you with it. Obviously, they do want to hear. And then you all, some of you don't talk into your microphones, so either you don't want them to hear or you don't care. Anyway, thank you for allowing public input. I'll say I'm always happy to see the young citizens recognized in the city. I'm really concerned about Mr. Richard Shires. He hadn't been here the last 2 meetings, and if he's sick, we all need to be praying to help him get well and come back. When I see one of you missing, we need to recognize that and find out where you're at and what's going on. You do check on me, and I think that's really a good thing. Many issues of concern about our government, and our government be every one of you sitting in those seats up there. We elect you and put you up there. There's many, many issues, and one of the big ones covers half of this agenda here tonight. It's the property downtown. I would like to know what the property downtown across the street from the post office that you're fixing to give away tonight. I want you to read the lease, read the money, read the years, tell the public what you're doing. When you get to that, it's KLMNOPQ. Anyway, if we're giving property away, tell the public why and what we're doing and what it appraised for. I'd appreciate if you'd educate the public. That be the ones that you're spending their money on. Something else I would like to know. The church people down there stopped me the other day next to this property, and they say, we don't want condos, or we did not want condos to overlook our church property when we're in church over there. I said, did they ask you, if anybody asked you if you wanted to buy that property? Did you put it out for bid, or did you just make a deal? I don't know how you make your deals. But anyway, I was here the other night on John Hunt Park, and I'm concerned that the public don't get involved in any of these issues here. That was a nightmare, what I was seeing going on down there about Joe Davis Stadium. We'll keep giving this city away. Please, our roads in this city is bump, bump, bump all over this city, and we keep giving our property away. Put some money on the table. Make these developers lay some money on the table. And if they don't follow through on the contracts, when you buy a house, you put money down. If you don't follow through on it, you lose your money.
Ms.
Why
Reed,
don't we operate like that?
Your time's up. Do you need extra time?
Does any of you have a real estate license up there? Thank you. I don't want to hear the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now at 8, Huntsville utility items. 8A is ordinance number 15-7 concerning water backflow prevention and cross connections. This was introduced January 8, 2015 at the regular council meeting. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. Culver. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have one board appointment to be voted on. We have a resolution to reappoint Douglas C. Martinson II to the Huntsville Public Library Board for a term to expire February 10th, 2019. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Dr. Robinson. Council members and the public, Mr. Martinson had filled in a partial term, and he's been on the board about a year, and my understanding he's doing very well and enjoys it, and the library is happy with his services, so that's why I chose to reappoint him. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
It carries.
Hey, Mark.
Sir, you're out of order.
Okay, will I be able to address the council?
Yes, sir, at the appropriate time. There's another time at the end of the meeting. Council members, do you have board appointment nominations? Hearing none, we're at 10, approval of expenditures. 10A is a resolution authorizing expenditures for payment. Mr. Kling.
Mr. President, move for payment of vouchers in the amount of $13,613,711.15.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Kling, second by Mr. Culver. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Mr. Kling, do you have a Finance Committee report?
No, Mr. President, although it was mentioned that Councilman Showers, the finance chair, was not here, he has been in the hospital for a couple of days, but I understand he did go home today. And certainly we do hope Councilman Showers will be back with us, and he'll be taking over the helms of the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Mayor Battle?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like for everybody to recognize that Scaleback, Alabama has now started and will go through March as part of the Healthy Huntsville Initiative. And after that, we will be going into Healthy Huntsville activities, which will be a lot of fun all summer. One of the members of our team on Scaleback is back there, Mr. Mark McCarter. Mark, would you stand? We could thank you for being here. We're glad to see you. We're also, there are some free art exhibits at the main branch of the Huntsville Public Library that you can go and visit from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. each day. And the exhibits are also at the Huntsville Museum of Art and the Huntsville Botanical Gardens. And if you have not been out there, and I have promised to go out there, and I've not made it yet, but the 101 Rocket City inventions displayed at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center is something really neat. This is the 101 inventions that have changed the world that were made right here in the Rocket City. That is something very special, and I'll reserve the rest of my remarks like to address when we start into the Polaris discussion.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Culver.
Actually, I have nothing, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kling.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm proud to have my monthly town meeting on the third Monday of each month. Because of the library, and they call the shots, they were closed for Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. I was not able to hold it. Also, next month, the third Monday will be President's Day, and I understand the library will also be closed. So again, I will not be holding my meeting at that time, but I will continue it in the month of March. Anyone that wants to call me, please call me if I can be of any help. My home number's in the telephone book, or call me at the council office, and certainly I'll be glad to provide any assistance that I can. And Mr. President, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson.
We held the first meeting, the organizing meeting, actually, the South Huntsville Business Association on January 13. I want to thank Harrison Diamond and Dennis Madsen for their part in that very successful first meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for February 10th, and Kathy Martin from City Engineering is going to be sharing with us plans for the overpasses and other road projects that are going to be impacting those businesses along the South Parkway. This is a great association designed to support existing businesses as well as promote new business in an area that has been suffering some decline. We've also had the opportunity to see an overview of the $250 million capital plan for the school system at a meeting hosted by the Grissom PTA with 70 realtors in attendance, and then also today at the City Council School Board Joint Breakfast. It is an exciting plan, and these new schools throughout the city are really going to be wonderful source of revitalization for the areas north, south, east, west. There are some really, really exciting projects going on throughout town, and it's wonderful to see that happen. The mayor and I attended the State of the Arts presentation last night at the VBC Playhouse, and we're there to see the cultural arts grants to 17, I think, different arts organizations. What a wonderful partnership between the city and the arts community. And then finally, I've taken a page from my mentor, Mr. Kling. I'm going to be hosting my first town hall on January 29th at 6:30 at the Bailey Cove Library. And I invite all who want to come and just have a discussion about issues, concerns, and ideas about how we can make this a better place for everyone to live.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. I just want to remind the public that UAH hockey is playing at the VBC Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. They're playing the USA 18 and under team. It's a very good hockey team. Kids 12 and under get in free. So if you have Saturday afternoon off and you want to bring some children to the VBC, you'll be welcome. 13 is unfinished business for action, which we have none. We do have one item tonight under new business, again, that the administration has asked that we consider tonight. So it is ordinance exempting qualifying projects from the payment of building permit fees. The chair moves for unanimous consent to consider this item tonight. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kling. Dr. Robbins, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. We have unanimous consent. The chair will move for the main motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kling. Mayor Battle, could you have someone on your staff discuss this?
Sure. This is part of the Polaris agreement. Just as the state of Alabama is changing some of their incentives, we recognized in this process that we had some things that were not in our incentive packages that were in other cities and other states' incentive packages throughout not only the Southeast but throughout the nation. One of them was that we have permit fees, which are when you're doing a over $100 million project, get very, very expensive, and it's one of the first things that that the developers ask you to take out. Polaris asked us to take that out. They had it taken out in the two other communities that we were competing against. We said that we would work with our council to make sure that we could be on equal terms with them. This totally gives the council the discretion to pass this. Number one, you are passing an ordinance that will allow you to actually waive the fees. Am I right on that, Mr. Jofrion? And then the second thing that you'll be doing is waiving the fees for Polaris for the permitting fees that are in the process. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Davis?
Council members, as Mayor Battle alluded to, what we put before you tonight is a foundational incentive that most cities across the nation have. We have held back from doing that just till we got in a competition of a project that it was a make or break type decision. We've set the threshold for this policy very high. A company to qualify to come before you to even ask for it would have to make an minimum investment of $100 million and provide 1,000 jobs. So it's not an incentive in our toolbox that you will see very often come before you. And we just ask for your consideration tonight.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councilmembers, I'm a little concerned about this, but I like the 1,000 jobs.
Well, I think maybe just to clarify what Mr. Davis said, and I'm reading this from there. This is 1,000 minimum of 1,000 jobs not previously within the corporate limit. So we're talking about a net of 1,000 new jobs.
1,000 new jobs. And it's not either or. It must be a $100 million capital investment and 1,000 job minimum. It's not an either or.
And members of the council, the additional protection is that it has to come before you. You have to have enough. You have to be satisfied that those commitments are in place. It can't be some company coming in who just offers to do that. So,
thank you. Further discussion?
Would there be any provision, or maybe that's part of the claw process, where if somebody says we're going to spend $101 million and we're going to hire 1,001 people, and then it turns out down the road that they don't meet those expectations.
We will negotiate out these things case by case, and we will work with you to make sure that we get our money's worth. We have clawbacks in each of our agreements, and we have clawbacks in the agreements that you will be passing tonight or be looking at tonight. Those clawbacks make sure that we protect the taxpayer. That is the most important thing that we have to do. We have very reputable companies that we have dealt with. Both Remington and Polaris are very reputable companies. They are leaders in their fields, but still, it is a business transaction, and we have the responsibility of making sure that we have protection for our taxpayers, just as they're protecting their stockholders.
What would be the average cost of the permit fees that would be waived?
They are based on the capital investment of the construction project. Currently, in an inspection department is the value of the project times .0055.
And so the thought is that any money that the city would be losing on those fees would be recouped by the economic impact of the project itself.
Correct, and the recoup of the property taxes throughout the years that the property is there, or the investment.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. All right, 15 new business items for consideration or action. The chair holds 15K, L, M, N, O, double B, double C, double D, double H. Are there any other items you'd like to hold?
Double B, double C.
I'll read them again. 15K, L, M, N, O, double B, double C, double D, and double H.
G as in girl.
Mr. Kling has held G as in girl. Are there any other items? 15S has been deleted. Any other items you'd like to hold? Okay, 15A is a resolution authorizing the mayor to agreement between the Madison County Commission and the City of Huntsville for salaries and fringe benefits reimbursement from the fiscal year 2014-2015 Strategic Counter-Drug Team Grant. B is a request for authorization to advertise and fill the vacant and budgeted general services plumber position at a higher rate than minimum if necessary. C is an ordinance declaring certain property as surplus and dispose at auction. D is a resolution to renew the agreement with McGriff, Siebels, and Williams, Inc. to provide general liability insurance on public transit fleet of revenue vehicles. E is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a special employment agreement between the City of Huntsville and Cecilia Summers. F is a resolution authorizing the mayor into agreements with the low bidders meeting specifications outlined in attached summary of bids for acceptance. H is a resolution authorizing acceptance of donations. I is a resolution authorizing the city attorney to settle the claim of Dynetics. J is a resolution authorizing the city attorney to settle the claim of Charles Dickerson. P is a resolution authorizing the clerk treasurer to invoke Progress Bank letter credit number 8000003510 for Southgate Subdivision Phase 1. Q is a resolution authorizing the mayor to modify the agreement between the City of Huntsville and Garver LLC for engineering design services for Martin Road Phase 1 from Old Jim Williams Road to Zert Road, project number 6510 RD06 by modification number 1. R is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter a utility relocation reimbursement agreement between the City of Huntsville and AT&T Corp. For relocation of utility facilities for Greenbrier Parkway, Phase 3, project number 6513 RD02. T is a resolution authorizing the mayor in an agreement between the City of Huntsville and OMI, Inc. for construction materials testing services for Weatherly Road Extension, a.k.a. Hazeland Road, project number 65-14-RD01. U is a resolution authorizing the mayor in an agreement between the City of Huntsville and Garver LLC for 2015 surveying services for in-house sanitary sewer projects, project number 6515 SP11. V is a resolution authorizing the mayor to modify the agreement between the City of Huntsville and Johnson Associates Consulting Engineers, LLC for engineering, construction, administration services for Church Street Phase 2, project number 6505 RD13 by modification number 1. W is a resolution authorizing the City Council to amend the contract with Reed Contracting Service, Inc. for County Line Road and I-565 Sanitary Sewer Relocation Project number 6512 SM01 and IM-I-1565307 is adopted by resolution number 14-102 of February 13, 2014, and amended by resolution number 14609 of August 14, 2014 by change order number 2. X is a resolution authorizing the mayor to modify the agreement between the City of Huntsville and Reed Contracting Service, Inc. for periodic bid for asphalt projects 2013, project number 6513 SP05 by modification number 1. Y is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter a mutual non-disclosure agreement between the City of Huntsville and Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless. Z is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement between the City of Huntsville and Summit Technology, Inc. for PeopleSoft support services. Double A is a resolution authorizing travel expenses for Huntsville Fire and Rescue. Double E is a resolution authorizing the mayor to an agreement between the City of Huntsville and Kavanaugh McDonald Consulting, LLC for the purpose of providing actuarial services on the city's post-retirement medical plan. Double F is a resolution authorizing the mayor an agreement between the City of Huntsville and Bird and Cambic Architects, LLC for architectural services for the Ben H. Wilcoxon Iceplex Locker Room Addition located at 3185 Lehman Ferry Road. Double G is a resolution authorizing the mayor an agreement between the City of Huntsville and the Arts Council, Inc. Double I is a resolution authorizing the mayor an agreement between the City of Huntsville and the Huntsville-Madison County Chamber of Commerce. The chair moves for consolidation and approval of 15A through F, 15H through J, 15P through R, 15T through double A, 15 double E through 15 double G, and 15 double I.
Second.
There's a motion for consolidation approval by the chair, a second by Mr. Kling. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We're now at 15G. 15G is an ordinance to amend budget ordinance number 14-665 by changing appropriating funding for various departments and funds. Is there Mr. Kling has made the motion. Mr. Culver has seconded. Mr. Taylor, could you explain this, please?
Council members, there are several items included in this action. One, in the general fund, to increase the appropriation for the purchase of tools and equipment in General Services Department by $12,500. That is coming from fees that department has collected from maintenance activities for other city agencies. In the Capital Improvement Fund, we are adding $14,500 to the Green Mountain Fire Station generator project, and that's from the fund balance of the Capital Improvement Fund. We're increasing the Wayfinder signage project by $23,485, and that is funded with contribution from the Huntsville Convention and Visitors Bureau. We are increasing the appropriation for Metro Sportsplex projects by $20,300, and that is from the proceeds of cell phone tower rents that we receive on that property. We're also increasing the recreation prioritized projects by $200,000 and Brand Spring Improvement Park projects by $700,000, and that was funded from the sale of University Park recently, where the city sold that property. So all of that money will be going back into recreation projects. And then we're increasing the traffic operations property purchase, establishing a new account for that, $265,000, and we're decreasing the annual traffic improvement account by that same amount to fund that property purchase. In the 2014 Capital Improvement Fund, our new 1 cent fund, we are establishing an appropriation for $14,600,000 for the purchase of property, and we're decreasing funding for road improvements by the same amount. But then we are restoring the funding for road improvements by $14,600,000, and will increase our borrowing for those projects.
Further discussion?
I guess the question I wanted to ask, Mr. President, had to do with the traffic operations. I know we just did that purchase for the property, and in fact, I understand that purchase was actually at a very good price. But the question was, are we going to be hurt by that loss of traffic improvement work that would normally be taking place over the course of a year? You know, signalization, signage, painting, but on roads, those little nuts and bolts type things.
There's considerable value, of course, in the purchase of the property and what's intended for that, but I'd have to defer to Dan Sanders with traffic engineering to answer the question on traffic improvements.
Is Mr. Sanders here? Mr. Sanders, if you'll introduce yourself for the record, and then Mr. Kling has questions for you.
Dan Sanders, traffic engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Kling.
Dan, I guess the concern I wanted to express, and I, along with with the rest, had voted, for the appropriation, for the property that we just did for the traffic complex. But the question is, are y'all going to be hurt real bad by a decrease of $265,000 in your traffic improvement fund?
Well, we're going to feel it, Councilman, but we do need to have this property purchased, as we do need a location to put our poles and mast arms for storage. The facility down near the JCs right now is going away, as everybody knows. So we do need a facility for this hardware.
I guess I was going to just throw it out if there's a need, would there be, some adjustments that can be made in different areas to kind of, replenish some of that funding. I know this is kind of like after the fact, and, I voted with the others for the purchase of the property, but I guess I just want to raise a flag about the, what that impact of that loss of money would have for, as far as traffic flow in the city.
Yes, sir, and we can certainly have internal discussions about how to try to shift some funding around and try to make things operate as best we can with what we're looking at.
Okay. I know, obviously, we're talking roads is sort of the big picture, but y'all do a lot of fine tweaking with signalization and some of the other things that y'all do, and that's what I guess I just want to raise a concern about, because the traffic flow in the city is certainly getting to be cozy, so to speak.
Well, I appreciate that, Councilman, and one of the items that we are looking towards, in the next few years, is getting a signalization system, software and communications infrastructure set up so that we can more efficiently operate these signals. We're gonna have to look at that and possibly stretch that out a little bit too. So into time.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. K is a resolution authorizing condemnation proceedings to obtain fee simple title to a certain tract of real property for the Church Street Phase 1 project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kling, second by Mr. Culver. Mr. Jeffron, could you explain this, please?
This is a 19,000 plus square foot tract of land that is required in connection with the Church Street project. Happy to answer any questions. This is a routine acquisition in connection with a typical right-of-way project for the city.
And so you're negotiating with the property owner to purchase it, and you just haven't come to an agreement?
Well, the property owner's been offered the appraised value and has declined that, so we have to move forward with condemnation.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. L is an ordinance declaring certain property as surplus and no longer needed for a municipal purpose.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mr. Culver. Mr. Jeffron?
Members of the council, items L, M, N, and O are all related, and they're all in connection with the Avenue project. In order for the city to lease the property at the intersection of Jefferson and Holmes Avenue to the developers of the avenue, the property must first be declared surplus, and that's what this item does.
And could you explain how much property this is? And Ms. Reed had some questions, like how many acres it was and what you thought it was worth. And
well, it's the entire property from, if you're familiar with Jefferson Holmes Street property, it's everything from where the old developed buildings are on Jefferson Street to the corner of Holmes Avenue. It's all the vacant land there, including the paved surface parking lot and the gravel parking lots. It's several acres.
And if you remember, this property, in my tenure, we put out an RFP on this property to see who would develop it. We had no takers out of it, and I believe there was one once before, another time that it was put out, and the best proposal that we had was required a $20 million public participation.
That's correct.
If I'm right. So to put this into your frame of mind, we have been trying to develop this lot for a long time. It's been a gravel parking lot. It's been in the city's hands. It has produced very little income, and had very little use that would be an attribute to the city. So the requirement in this lease is that we would have a multifamily apartment complex containing at least 120 residential units, 20,000 square feet of retail space, either an additional 50,000 square feet of office space or an additional 50 retail multifamily apartment units, and 350 total parking spaces within a 5-level parking deck, which are all to be constructed at the developer's expense. And this is a significant investment into our property on the city of Huntsville that we still own and own long term. There is a buyout clause in there at appraised price, if I read it right. And we are sitting in a position where this property finally gets on the tax rolls. It finally starts paying property tax. It finally produces something that is an attribute to the downtown area, which gives us additional people living downtown, additional boots on the ground, which drives your retail trade, which drives your downtown viability. And it also adds to the retail mix down there. When you start adding to that retail mix, and you got to have that. This will be our second urban development in the downtown area. The Holiday Inn site will be the third, and that will give us what we would say is a critical mass, so that you can continue the retail development in that downtown area. Mr. Seeley, who is doing it back there, Charlie and Sasha right back there. They did Belk Hudson Lofts, did a wonderful job with that, and have provided the very first of the downtown apartments that were affordable for people to live in the downtown area, and they did a great job with those. This is an extension of that. It also gives them enough apartments under one management group that it makes it worthwhile to have on-site management, which is so critical, especially in the downtown area. So that's where we are with this project. And Mr. Jofrion, what have I missed out on?
Just the city's participation in the project. The city is providing the land and will provide streetscape improvements, landscaping. The city will develop a very small surface parking lot adjacent to the development, and those are items that the city will be providing as part of this agreement.
Okay, so council members, right now we're on L, which is declaring certain property as surplus and no longer needed for municipal purposes. Is there any further discussion on this?
I think it's a good neighborhood development project. We talk about neighborhoods, and here's a neighborhood area in downtown that's going to get developed and improve the area around it compared to the parking lot that's currently there. And of course, there's sales tax, property tax that would come in that dollar-wise makes it very good for the city, but I think it's a good quality of life thing, and it's a good neighborhood project too.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Culver.
Mayor, I know that you have held some of the special events where people could give input as it relates to what they would like to see in Huntsville, and if I remember correctly, there was an overwhelming response to revitalizing downtown. And this sometimes can be a difficult challenge, especially from the city's perspective, since we're not in the business of private development. But this is a grand opportunity for us to revitalize that portion of downtown, especially with a developer like the Seeleys, who have a proven track record. So this to me seems like a win-win situation for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on L. Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. 15M is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a project agreement between the City of Huntsville and Avenue Huntsville LLP. Chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Dr. Robinson. Mr. Jofrion.
Well, the mayor has explained in pretty good detail both this item and the next item. If the council members have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. This is the recitation of the obligations of both parties under the project development agreement.
And who is Avenue Huntsville LLP?
The Seeleys are Avenue L.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. N is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a ground lease agreement between the City of Huntsville and Avenue Huntsville LLP. Chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Dr. Robinson. Mr. Jofrion, tell us the terms of the lease agreement, please.
The term is for an initial 50-year period at $100 per year. There are two renewal periods, one for 25 years at a annual rental of $120,000 per year. If the last renewal period is exercised, the rent for that period will be either $120,000 per year, or the then current fair market value is determined by an MAI appraiser.
And how were those terms, were they negotiated, or how'd y'all come up with that?
Well, they were negotiated, and obviously the 50-year term at $100 a year is not what you would consider fair market value. Those are incentives necessary in order to attract a developer to spend the kind of capital required for a mixed-use development of this magnitude and quality.
And as the mayor mentioned, the property is not generating much revenue now. Do you know?
It's not generating any revenue.
Any
now.
revenue? We're not getting any parking?
Totally
anything?
off the tax rolls.
Totally off it. Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. O is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an easement agreement between the City of Huntsville and Avenue Huntsville LLP. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Dr. Robinson. Mr. Geoffrey, one more time, please.
Members of the council, the city is going to retain title to all the property, and but on the parking lot portion, the surface parking lot portion to be developed by the city, there are some amenities that are required for the private development that need to be on the city property. So this easement is for that purpose.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Now at 15 double B. 15 double B is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter a real estate purchase and sale agreement between the City of Huntsville and Diltina Development Corporation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kling, second by Mr. Culver. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is your district, but I'll explain it. This is a purchase of a property on Green Mountain that is owned by Mike Friday. It is a joint purchase. We are going in with the neighborhood association up there, the Green Mountain Association, and the county to purchase that property. Your actions tonight authorize the mayor to enter into a real estate purchase and sales agreement on the property. It is contingent upon the neighborhood. It's a $250,000 sale, contingent upon the neighborhood coming up with $125,000. Just as we do in many cases, they put up half, we put up half. But in this case, it's both City of Huntsville and Madison County Commission. And the Madison County Commission has agreed to put up half of the $125,000, which is that $62,500.
Two commissioners will split it.
Right, and the city of Huntsville will be putting up $62,500. Your net result out of this will be that we will be spending $62,500. We will get a 5-acre parcel of land, which we will make into a park. Future use of it, 10 years down the way, we will probably, as population increases on Green Mountain, we will probably be needing it for a fire station, which we would probably use half of the land for a fire station. The other half would stay as park. There is also talk with the Green Mountain residences, if we ever get in a situation, iced-in situation or accident situation, where we need a heliport up there, which is basically just a cleared field area that a helicopter could land in, that we could use that as that site also. So it made sense to us. The residences want the park up there, and the county commission, we met with them this morning. They have agreed to work with us. It's County Commissioner Eddie Sisk and County Commissioner Phil Reddick. Both of them are contributing to make this happen.
Thank you. Further discussion?
I guess I would just like to comment, the unusual piece to this is if the residents have not raised their share by February 2nd, the $125,000. I understand they're knocking on the door of that, very close, and have commitments from some folks to make up the difference that they lack. But if that amount is not purchased by February 2nd, there will be no agreement. Is that correct? So just want to clarify that. But we do need the property. Chief McFarland made that very clear to me the other day when I spoke with him. The population up there is getting ready to triple, and we will, in the long term, need some space to expand the fire station. The current space that we have up there for the volunteer fire station really is not adequate for a full station that they need. So this is a very good project, and what a great collaboration between the residents, the city, and the county.
Thank you. Sounds good. Further discussion? All those in favor of double B, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Double C is a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a project development agreement among the City of Huntsville, Limestone County, Alabama, and Polaris Industries. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Dr. Robinson. Mr. Davis, could you do your presentation now?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I'd like
Sure,
to
go
just
ahead.
precursor this. This is a project that for the past 6 years, we've been looking at advanced manufacturing, how to get production jobs in here. Everybody's not going to be a engineer. Everybody's not going to be a rocket scientist in this town. So we have to have jobs that fit, good paying jobs that fit those who might not fall into those other two categories. And for a long time, we have been very dependent on federal spending. It's a great thing. We have a very diversified portfolio of federal spending. We have 72 agencies sitting out at Redstone Arsenal, which is a very diversified group. But we do want to diversify away from the federal spending. So over a year ago, we had the Remington announcement. The Remington announcement was 2,000 jobs, and they purchased an existing building, a $10 million building, which consequently had a greater value than $10 million, 140,000 square foot building. And this is just a further push in the diversification that we want to do for Huntsville's economy. It has up to 2,000 jobs, $142 million worth of capital investment come into the community. And it is a very reputable company. We had an accounting firm look at their financials and give us a report on it. They went through it. They are a leader in their industry, in the ATV industry. They are growing by 14% a year. The reason they are building here is because they are growing so much they need the capacity. And so they will be doing the capacity here. Mr. Davis will show you what they will be building here. They are a good business group, too. We have been up until 11 o'clock this morning finishing up a final of the development agreement. We sent you the early copies of the development agreement with some red lines in it earlier in the week so you could be caught up with it. And there were about one or two sticking points that were finally developed out today. And they are a very good business group. They are they're very frugal, just as we like to be frugal. But they are also they're men of their word. Mr. Chip Cherry, from the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I went up and met with them back in November. We gave a presentation of what we would like to see them do, and they told us what they would like to do. Then we told them what we would how we would incentivize that. A lot of people talk about incentives. Every city and every state that we competed against had incentives. Georgia had incentives. Tennessee had incentives. All 100 communities that they looked at had incentives. And so we tried to come away with the smallest amount of incentives possible. One of the things that sold them on this community was your education system, that we produce students who are career ready and college ready. And career ready means that they are trained in advanced manufacturing. When we could send them the article about the green car competition, how we build, design, do the systems integration, green solar cars, that was very impressive for them because it showed a community who had a school system who was training students to be workers in their plants in the future. When we showed them our capital plan, that we have infrastructure and we are investing in infrastructure, which every one of you played a part in. Over the past several years, we have continued to put money into infrastructure. One of the things when we asked them what was one of your turning points, they said, we looked at your education, we looked at what y'all were putting into infrastructure, we looked at your 10-year capital plan, which there's not many people who look at your 10-year capital plan who aren't insomniacs. But they looked at our 10-year capital plan. They saw that we planned on spending money on roads, on infrastructure, on community year in and year out. And then they came here and they saw a quality of life. They said, we can tell by the people that we have working at the hotel that we're staying at, by the restaurant workers who are serving us right here, that you have a trained, educated workforce, one that is a good workforce that will very much fit what are the parameters of what we look for in employees. They very much fit with the parameters of what we find in Minnesota, the same thing that we find here in Alabama. So when we went through that process and talked to them, we could offer some things that money could not buy. You can't buy an educated workforce. You can't buy infrastructure and have it in place, and you can't buy the kind of sites that we had here. So it was a very, they were impressed with the area. We were impressed with them. We had to get down to the details of the prenuptial, which was the development agreement, and then we finally decided to get married. And this is the final consummation of the marriage that you're looking at today, because this is the development agreement that puts together what we are promising to them, what they are promising to us, and it says this is what we will do to have those 2,000 jobs here, to have Polaris in this community and have Polaris be part of our community. Mr. Davis?
Well done, Mayor. Council members, I plan to take you through a few different segues, a little bit of the background of the project, a little background about Polaris Industries themselves, and then, of course, we'll get into the details of the incentives, the protection that our community has with this development agreement, and the return on investment to the community. Project Axel began August of 2014. It's when our team, along with the Huntsville Chamber and our regional community partners, started competing for the project. The city of Huntsville submitted 3 sites in consideration for this project. With the assistance of SSOE, international site consultant, the project evaluated over 100 sites in 14 states. As the mayor mentioned, there were key factors in determining the most suitable site for Polaris Industries to do this expansion. Those factors were community infrastructure, a skilled workforce and education system, good logistics of a project site, and the quality of life of the community for which they make a determination for the expansion. Give you a little overview about Polaris. They recorded a record sales in 2013 of $3.8 billion and was founded in 1954. They just celebrated 60 years in business. Polaris is the leading producer of off-road vehicles, including all-terrain vehicles, snowmobiles, and side-by-side vehicles. The company also owns Victory and Indian motorcycle brands, with Indian being one of the oldest American-made motorcycle brands in history, and is actively advancing into both DoD vehicles, Department of Defense vehicles, and electric and hybrid power vehicles. Some of the brand names that are community household names is the Polaris Ace, the Polaris Ranger, the Razor, of course, Indian and Victory motorcycles, the Sportsman, and the Slingshot that you may have saw at the announcement. And the Jim brand car is a separate entity of Polaris Industries, and that is their electric vehicle brand. As the mayor alluded to, Polaris Industries has had an average growth rate of 14% growth from 2009 to 2014, with last year having a record growth of 18% and record sales of $3.8 billion. Polaris has over 7,000 employees worldwide, with coming to Huntsville will take that to almost 10,000 employees worldwide. 11 manufacturing locations across the globe, 5 research and development centers of excellence. Huntsville will be the number 6. And a growing number of dealerships, currently set at 1,750 dealerships in the U.S. and 1,400 outside of the U.S. 300,000 units shipped in 2013 within the United States, in over 100 countries for which their project is exported to and sold. I want to give you a little background of where their revenue comes from. 67% of the annual company revenue is in off-road vehicle product lines. The Huntsville facility will produce these vehicles. So you can see the growth rate of the company is actually the reason for the expansion, and Huntsville will be part of that growth rate in the vehicles that is most popular to them and selling in 100 countries is what we will make here in Huntsville. Give you a little project site overview. The project site is the former McCrary Farm. It's 505 acres. It was the ultimate site selected by Polaris of the 3 sites that we submitted early on in the project. The current proposed campus layout for the Polaris campus will include initial building of 630,000 square feet manufacturing facility, approximately another 500,000 square feet of a distribution center, and then a research and development facility, and then a project testing ground facility, all on the 505-acre campus. The campus will allow players to double in size in the future without any more need of land. So one of the things that really stuck out to them was the ability to have a campus where not needing land next door. So the 505-acre campus puts Huntsville in a great position with the growth rate they're having to be a natural expansion location for them. Project details: players' capital investment will be a minimum of $142 million. The jobs created is 2,000. 1,700 is guaranteed. I will get into that. That is more related to our mortgage that we'll have on the property with players. Annual average salary is $37,450 a year. That is excluding benefits, employee stock options, and overtime. They will have an annual payroll in our community of almost $75 million annually. Scheduling opening of the Players Plant with employees working is sometime in the first quarter of 2016. Their current, more detailed schedule is to start mass grading of the site in mid-February and start vertical construction of the building in May, and with a hopeful shell completion of the facility sometime late September of 2015, excuse me. And then from September 2015 to in the first quarter of 16 would be staffing it with equipment and employees. As I mentioned before, the side-by-side and the off-road vehicles is what will be produced initially in Huntsville. You see on the screen the 3 vehicles that will come off the assembly line in Huntsville. It will be the Ranger products, which is about 10 lines of those. The Players Ace, which is 4 different models of that, and then the Razor, Players Razor, which there's almost 10 models of that. So total, there'll be about 18 different models coming out of Huntsville, shipping across the world. The overview of the incentive commitments. As I mentioned before, and Mayor Battle did, the incentives were broke down from 3 different areas. The state of Alabama, of course, and Governor Bentley's office and Department of Commerce. You, the city of Huntsville, our council tonight, and our regional partners. The state of Alabama incentives. The state of Alabama has committed a total of $60 million. That is in the form of cash from state discretionary incentives. Some of that is for site work, extension of rail service, and then some of the that incentive of discretionary cash is going towards the offset some vertical construction costs, which that will be paid at the certificate of occupancy. So they must finish the, kind of protects us because the capital investment has to be complete before they get some of the state incentives. So we're kind of double covered. 20 million of that 60 million will be in AIDT workforce development. We could not recruit without those guys. They routinely are told with our site selectors are one of the best in the world in what they do in workforce development. Sales tax abatements is approximately just under $3 million of the $60 million. And then property tax abatements by state statute is $6.6 million. And that is non-educational taxes, but that they receive those by state statute. The city of Huntsville incentives is, as the mayor alluded to, our only incentive is $14.5 million. That is the land purchase to provide the 505 acres. This incentive will be in the form of providing the project site under performance mortgage scenario, very similar to what we passed with Remington council members. The city of Huntsville has an investment protection provision within the development agreement to ensure the public protection of our commitment. So what is our commitment protection? The project development agreement contains provisions within to secure the full and timely performance of Polaris Industries in regards of their capital investment and their jobs commitment. The city will receive a foreclosable mortgage on the property and secure any payments due to the city. The recapture of the local incentive. For each project year, 12 years total, Polaris Industries will owe the city a payment of $1.2 million plus accrued interest if it fails to meet its minimum full-time employment levels and its total minimum hourly wage commitment. Just like our Remington agreement, if Polaris Industries satisfies the hiring of full-time employee levels and its minimum wage commitments for the project year, nothing is owed for that annual mortgage payment, and that is a year-by-year for a 12-year mortgage.
I will point out in this that if they come within 80% of the amount, then they will be forgiven 80%. The 20% is what they will pay. And council members, as the mayor just alluded to, this is a proposed mortgage schedule similar to the Remington agreement. They have committed a $142 million investment in 2,000 jobs.
and a minimum hourly wage of $18 an hour. But we all know that our economy is cyclical. So just like the Remington, we have taken 85% of their commitment to be the rate for which they would owe us a payment. So as the mayor said, if you take 85% of 2,000 jobs, it's 1,700 jobs. And that what it allows them to do is to ramp up and be solid here instead of hire a bunch of people, the economy goes bad, we lay some people off. So it gives them flexibility to grow here, and it gives us flexibility to be a good corporate partner with those guys, just as we have with Remington and other corporations. But you can see the 12-year mortgage schedule. Year 2 would be 400 jobs. By year 7, they're at full ramp-up employment of the 2,000. Of course, the mortgage is based off 85% of that. Our regional partners. Limestone County was a huge regional partner. Limestone County would be providing $1 million cash. One of the requirements in the RFP was to provide 1 year of temporary office and training space for their existing Polaris employees to come down and set this new factory up, train their employees, and get it up and running. Limestone County will be handling 100% of that cost, and any remaining funds with that will go towards Greenbrier Parkway. Our Morgan County, Decatur, and Athens also were regional partners. Jointly, the 3 entities will provide $950,000 cash towards the project, and that will be going towards the Greenbrier Parkway requirements of Polaris. Excuse me. Huntsville Utilities. Huntsville Utilities will be providing the natural gas service to the project site. Limestone County Water Authority will be providing water service to the site. And Athens Utilities will be the electric provider, and will be installing electrical on-site substation and electrical service needed from the TVA substation. So our return on investment. The project will produce a total of $206 million in state and local revenue over a 10-year period. If you do a 20-year ROI that we typically do, the math's pretty easy. It's right at $420 million. As I mentioned earlier, it's almost $75 million in annual payroll. That does not include overtime or benefits. The labor distribution from our model estimates right at a third of those jobs will reside in Madison County, and 15% of those will reside in the corporate limits of Huntsville. The net revenue return directly from Polaris, not counting the employees' expenditures of direct revenue from Polaris to the city, net 20 years is $20 million. So we get our money back on the property plus a $5 million bonus without taking into account any employee direct incentives that we're getting from new jobs created in the community. The project has a multiplier factor 2.4. So what I mean by that is for every job they create or every dollar they spend, it multiplies by 2.4%, or multiplier by 2.4. So it brings it to $48 million within the city of Huntsville. That's not regional. Regional is much larger than that. It's $420 million. The return on the investment with the location of Polaris campus will impact the city of Huntsville community for many, many years to come. The creation of 2,000 jobs to this general area will provide one, as the mayor mentioned, we're working several other projects. Additional opportunities in this corridor. As the mayor said, we've got some tremendous industrial recruitment sites here. And as I told Polaris when they came, it wasn't by chance, it was by design. We've spent the last 10 years putting infrastructure here and creating this environment to create jobs for our community. And we're starting to reap some rewards there. New residential development within the community is kind of shown in yellow. Those are areas that have sewer and some development there. We expect those residential developments to expand. And the red circle areas are zones of commercial zones that we think will bring commercial and retail development that we've had planned for that will accelerate that, which means new sales tax. Over the next 10 years, these new developments will create, as I mentioned, a new tax base for Huntsville and property taxes and sales taxes. Our model also showed, I want to add that 35% of an employee's salary would be expendable income in sales tax, and that translates to putting $26 million annually into the economy in goods and services purchased. As I mentioned, there's some public infrastructure that we need to accelerate, and that is Greenbrier Parkway Phase 2. Council members, you approved in October to fund the Greenbrier Parkway Phase 2 in the capital plan for 2015. As Randy Taylor mentioned in a budget amendment earlier tonight, we will be shifting that funding for that roadway improvement project to purchase of the project site. And the City of Huntsville is proposing to fund the construction of Greenbrier Parkway, or replacing that funding that was in the CAP plan to build that road from an industrial access grant in cooperation with the City of Huntsville and the State of Alabama, Department of Commerce, and ALDOT. Incentives from our regional partners that I just mentioned earlier. And the creation of a new TIF district that will encompass the Polaris campus. If I can give you just a little bit of background on Greenbrier Parkway. The construction, as I mentioned, was approved for construction dollars in October of the budget year in 2014. The current estimate is $7.5 million. A small portion of the project that fronts the frontage portion of what you see in blue of the Polaris campus, we have agreed to have completed by the end of October of this year. Should not be a problem. It's only about 900 feet. And the remaining balance we will finish in 2016. As I mentioned, the City of Huntsville will create a TIF district to cover the cost of the public infrastructure, including the Greenbrier Parkway construction. The creation of the TIF district will be presented after the execution of the project development agreement at a later date council meeting. Both finance, legal, and myself, urban development departments, we're determining the final boundary of that TIF district and how best to shape that. And we'll be bringing that to you later in the year. The district, as I mentioned, will include the Polaris campus and most likely land to the west side of Greenbrier Parkway and to the north of Polaris campus. As I mentioned, I can't say this enough, as with the recruitment of any major industry, it takes a team effort. And I wanted to put this up here to let you see just all the team players that took for 7 months to bring something like this to our community. I can't thank the Chamber enough. Chip Cherry is here. AIDT, Limestone County Economic Development Authority, the utility partners, City of Athens, Decatur, Limestone County was tremendous. TVA, kudos to those guys. Mayor didn't mention, but they were on the trip, and there's a couple phone calls made in between meetings that really made a difference. So TVA really stepped up in our community to help bring this home.
I might mention one other thing. When we talked about the multiplier effect, we're not even taking into account the suppliers that will come here. This is an OEM, a manufacturing outlet. There will be Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers who will be locating in the area, who will provide provide engines, provide chassis, provide exhaust systems, provide turn lights, all electrical systems. All those suppliers will also be coming to the area to locate close to the plant so that they can also service that plant. So that is one of the things that is not even considered in that 2.4 multiplier effect. The 2.4 multiplier effect is 2.4 jobs for every production job that comes out, and for every first line job there's 2.4 that come in for people to work in restaurants, to people to work who sell homes to them, to people who build homes for those 2,000 people. For all those different types of jobs, you will have a multiplier effect of 2.4 per each job.
Cameron, so I'll answer any questions you may have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Council members, let's go one at a time. Mr. Culver.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. And Shane, I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you have done in your department and all of the collaborations that were necessary to make this possible. And I'm personally grateful that it is in District 5. Now, having said that, of course, I know unequivocally, Mayor, that there will be a lot of concerns about the services that we provide, and to me this seems like a grand opportunity for us to look at a true West precinct for police. I'm looking at all of the residential communities and other business communities that will develop in that area. I know that we have fire a little closer in that direction, but we probably will have to revisit that as well. But a job well done, and that means a lot to not just Huntsville, but North Alabama and Southern Tennessee. I do have a question, though, as it relates to the training, AIDT. Is there any way that some of that training would go to
Drake State and Calhoun Community College because they have workforce-ready development programs?
Yeah, Councilman Culver, what will actually happen is AIDT will sit down personally with players and create a custom training program for players, as they do for all industry in the state of Alabama. And once that is in place, then they will sit down for the continuing job market and the workforce that is needed, and they will go out to Drake and Calhoun and others and create some technical classes so that you now have a feeder program just as they do for Boeing and they've done for Toyota and others. So, yeah, they will be involved as the years progress.
Great. That's all I have. Thank you. So kind of.
Dr. Robinson?
You mentioned that there will be a $26 million annual sales tax impact. What percentage of that would be city sales tax?
We're currently estimating about 21% of that will be spent in our region. We'll have a better handle in the years to come. We are a regional powerhouse for a retail standpoint. Naturally, it could be much higher. We're very conservative in our numbers. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So every number that you have seen from us has been very, very conservative.
Well, the development of all those commercial areas were within our boundaries.
They were.
That would certainly be a source of a significant piece of that sales tax, I would think.
Yes.
And I would be very surprised if we were, the 21% is more jobs and jobs locating in the city of Huntsville. The sales tax impact, will be that $75 million as a regional shopping center area, as a regional retail area. We will get we'll get our share of percentages off of that.
If you look at that $26 million that I mentioned and just take the 21%, that's $5 million annually. That $26 million was annually, wasn't a 20-year projection, so you're looking at $4 to $5 million conservatively in new infusion of sales tax in our community, and the 21% is what we're thinking that will reside in our corporate limits.
And similar sort of question with regard to the suppliers that the mayor mentioned earlier. As those suppliers move in, how many jobs are we anticipating coming with those, and will those suppliers largely be locating in the Huntsville area?
We're very early in that. We're just starting to meet with them on those suppliers and supplier needs. One question they did ask us up there is, will you give the same incentives to suppliers that you're giving to us? And we quickly said no. They are, I told them in Southern vernacular, they are the lead dog. We are the ones that we want to bring the lead dog here, and he will bring the rest of them here. And so the other suppliers will come and be on the free market basis and be working with us in this area. We've already had some developers looking at the area as where to put a supplier park. Another thing that needs to be recognized in this is, our partnership out of this was with Limestone County, Morgan County, and the counties to the west. We consider that the money that we bring in off regional sales tax and the money that we bring in city of Huntsville was also portions of what was Madison's contribution, Madison County's contribution. We have 42 other projects, and we don't want to tap out all of our partners at one time. We felt like that this plan worked very well to be able to pay for this project. Of those 42 other projects, we will be working with Madison and Madison County on contributions, just as we did with Remington, just as Madison did when they were working the Intergraph project. So everybody is part of the success of this story.
Mr. President?
Ms. Kling.
Shane, I guess from a job point of view, how many of these jobs from Polaris are going to come down from Minnesota, and how many of them are going to be jobs that are going to be available for people from the North Alabama area?
The early predictions, we asked the very question, the transfers will be somewhere between 12 and 18%, and could be less. They could be temporary where they stay a couple of years and go back home. So 80 to 85% as a minimum will be brand new jobs to the community.
One other question, and it's more of a growth-related issue. As we all remember, about 2 years ago, the state informed us that they were going to back out of the 10-year plan that had been there for needed road projects. And I know y'all had worked hard to get the best we could out of the state. Since Remington and Polaris are basically the two largest job announcements the state has. Has the governor or the highway director said anything about coming back to try to plus up what we're doing in Huntsville?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they have. And let me say, the governor came to the table very, very strong, along with the Secretary of Commerce, to make this project work. When we went to Minnesota, they plussed up some of their numbers to make sure that this project worked. Because I think they saw how vital it was and what a leader in the industry it was and what it would mean to the brand of Alabama to have them here. In the same way, when we talked to Director Cooper with the Alabama Department of Transportation, he said that he was very excited that he wanted to work with us. In fact, last week he sent us an email asking us to get our applications in for industrial access grants so that we could do it. And we just yesterday we turned those in. So that they could work with us on making sure that we had the money for Greenbrier Parkway. We did mention to them that we're now in Phase 1 and Phase 2. 3, 4, and 5 still have to be done on Greenbrier Parkway, and I think that will give us a corridor all the way between 65 and I-565. But they have indicated to us and gave every indication that they would be glad to work with us. They wanted to work with us, and I've got to say the state stepped up. Every time you go through a new election, you're going to have a new governor, a new state director of transportation, a new commerce director, and everything else. But these guys that we have on the ground right now have been doing yeoman's work for us and been doing a very good job for us. Portions of what the Secretary of Commerce came out with his new incentive proposals that he came out with, portions of them came out of the discussions that we've had on both this project and Remington project, because they saw the need for us to get into to be able to offer the same incentives that others did. And in fact, one of the incentives that they're talking about, the direct payroll, 3% of your direct payroll coming in gives you one of the best clawbacks that you can have in your system. If they don't provide the jobs, they don't provide the funds, they don't get the money, and that is one of the best systems that you can go into. The state government, for all their woes right now and what they're going to have to go through this session, really did come to the bat with us and work very, very hard. And I'd like to offer Chip Cherry a chance to talk. Chip was is our president, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Chip was with us every step of the way through this and did a marvelous job. And Chip, what have we left out in our discussions?
I would just I think you covered everything. I just wanted to say thank you to the council for the faith that you have in the team and the support of us to be able to make this possible. This is, you guys have taken the lead on 2 big projects, and they're phenomenal in that you don't normally see 2,000 job projects very often in your career, and we've seen a bunch of large projects, and that speaks to the faith that the development community has in our economy and in our region, and a lot of that has to go back to the quality of the people sitting up there. And I just want to say thank you for that, and for Shane and for everybody else on the team.
Councilmembers, with your consent, I'd like to open up to public comments. Since these projects come so fast, we don't have a lot of time to inform the public. And to the public, we're sorry about that. It's just the way it works. The projects come to us, and so now we're talking about them in public. And if you have anything you'd like to tell us right now, we would be glad to hear it. Mr. Cox, if you go to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. And this is only for public comment on this particular project.
Yes, Jerry Cox, 4029 Telstar Circle. Thank you, Mr. President. Council, as a citizen having been involved with the Alabama Industrial Development Training in the Alabama Diesel and Toyota, I wish to congratulate the mayor, Mr. Davis, especially Mr. Davis with his burden that he has, and all other involved city employees on accomplishing the Polaris project. And while I have been a long time employee of AIDT, I certainly don't want to speak for AIDT, but Councilman Carver, when initially we trained the Toyota people, a lot of that training was done at Drake. So, and in other projects, Calhoun has been involved also. but probably there's no employee at Toyota that I didn't teach probably about 5 or 6 courses to. But again, just congratulations, and council will approve this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Would anybody else like to share their opinion on this project? Mr. Davis, I do have some questions to finish this up.
I think there was someone in the back.
Sir, if you come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Dylan Bishop, 1518 Tony Drive.
Welcome.
If I'm not mistaken, y'all planned on producing the slingshot model. Is that correct?
It's not us producing it. It's the Polaris company.
Polaris did?
And yes, well, the slingshot's produced by Polaris, but will it be built here?
Not initially. The Ranger, the Razor, and the Ace will be the current product lines.
Does that answer your question?
Well, Polaris plans to begin sometime after they've finished their construction with the production of the slingshot.
I don't know. Mr. Davis, do you know?
Not here. They're going to do that in their corporate headquarters in Minnesota.
Okay.
But I can say, we asked them, it's been a phenomenal seller for them. It came out of their research and development facility. They took it to an international show, I think in 2012, just as a tickler of possible new products. It kind of won best in show, and they said, we got to put this in production. We asked them what they thought they would set number of sales for Slingshot, and they said, we didn't know. We just put it in production. It currently has a 4-month backlog in sales. So they said, who knows? It may be a line added in the future. So not at the moment, but the future will hold.
So go over the 3 that they're going to build here: Ranger.
Be the Polaris Ranger models, the Polaris Razor models, and the Polaris Ace models.
And they're all 4-wheel vehicles?
They're all 4-wheel vehicles, yes.
Do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming. Anybody else? Mr. Davis, my questions, appreciate all the work on this and obviously like the project very much. I think it's interesting that there's 3 different utility companies involved. How did that come about, and is that a good practice, and was there any concern about that? Because I certainly would have a concern if that was my factory.
If we didn't have the partnerships we've had out there in the last 15 years, it could be an issue. You're just in a service area. Water service, for example, is set many years ago as far as your water right service area, mainly by debt from the EPA. So it's hard for water utilities to expand in the coverage areas. Gas is a little bit different story. And then TVA sets the service areas for electric.
Okay.
So just in this general area, you're getting into crossing in and out of different service areas. You're on the fringe there. But everybody works very well together, so it was never an issue with Polaris.
And let me say, from day one, we had Mark Aubrie, chairman of the Limestone County Commission, working with us and working hand in glove. He's got his county administrator is County Administrator Seibert, who used to be the chairman of the county commission 2 terms back. And they are a very good group to work with. They are a team-oriented group. In all of our dealings, we've had to go to them for some of those issues that you were talking about. And there was some concerns in that, how do we make sure that all this happens and falls together in the right way. We have all promised to use all of our influence and all of our expertise to make sure that this comes together in the right way. And there is some faith out of this whole process. The good thing is that we have dealt enough with the executives at Polaris. I think that they know that we're going to, you don't get to be AAA without doing what you say you're going to do.
Sure. And Mr. Joffron, questions for you. How are the legal proceedings on this, Amendment 772, the TIF? Can you tell us the timeline, or when you'll be coming back to the council with these documents?
Well, the 772 announcement's already been published in the newspaper, so we've complied with that requirement. You're approving documents tonight, which will also satisfy some 772 requirements. As far as the TIF documents, and keep in mind, the TIF is not going to pay for the incentives provided to Polaris in terms of land acquisition. They will pay for infrastructure, the Greenbrier Parkway improvements, and other public infrastructure improvements. We'll come back to you with a TIF schedule probably at the next meeting and start that process. It's at minimum 2-month process. Money has to be borrowed for those improvements, and the borrowing process will take probably minimum 2, if not 3 months, according to Mr. Taylor, if that helps.
Okay, and so the 772 requirements, are we finished with them as of when we approve this tonight, or are we going to have, we're going to have to discuss it more?
No, I think this is it. I think this is it for 772.
Thank you. Further discussion, council members? Call for a vote. We're voting on 15CC, which is the project development agreement for Polaris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Double D is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an option agreement between the City of Huntsville, Alabama, and J&M Hargrave Farms. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. Culver. Discussion?
This is a byproduct of the agreement that we have. A farmer who was leasing the land that we are buying had a crop that he had put in the ground, and barely just put it in the ground as Polaris called us and said, yes, we'd like to go on that piece of property. Our agreement was that we would take care of the farmer's crop and pay him for his crop, because that's what we agreed to in the land sale agreement. If we'd been 2 months, if we'd been a month earlier, he never would have had it in the ground, but that's part of the cost of doing the process. And total cost was $69,000.
And council members, paying for farm crop is not something new to Huntsville. We have routinely did that in a road expansion, and most cities will do that, because it's no fault of the farmer. So we're doing this for the players. It's a small amount. It encapsulates about 120 of the 505 acres, and it's a winter wheat crop.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It carries. Double H is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute agreement to purchase between the City of Huntsville and Donald Ray Vaughn for certain real property. Chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Dr. Robinson. Mr. Jeffron, could you explain this, please?
Or Mr.
Hamilton, whoever wants to.
This is a piece of property on Clinton that was discussed extensively earlier, that provides for that expansion of space for traffic engineering. The two things that I would like to note: one, the primary purpose for this is to allow for the consolidation of traffic engineering in one location, which allows them to operate much more efficiently. Predominantly, the use is for the consolidation of their laydown yard for large pieces of equipment, replacement supplies, things like poles and things like that. Secondarily, it gives us the advantage of contributing to the redevelopment of John Hunt Park, in that right now all of those supplies sit basically in the middle of what will be John Hunt Park, and so we've got to get it moved. So fortunately, we have the opportunity to move it to a place that actually makes us more efficient, and that's what this achieves.
Good. Further discussion?
I guess going back to Mr. Kling's earlier question with regard to the funding for this coming out of the traffic improvement plan, having been over there and looked at this piece of property that's right next door to the traffic engineering building, they will be storing that equipment right next to the building rather than in John Hunt Park. So I would think that the efficiencies they would experience there might perhaps lower their costs in some way, their labor costs if nothing else, so that would offset the monies that they are going to be losing out of the improvement plan. So there might, the net loss of what I'm saying is might be less than we think it would be.
Right, and it allows them to react more quickly if there's an emergency outage of signal. So for example, if in the middle of the night or on the weekend there's some sort of significant issue at an intersection, when whatever employee we have on call to come in and deal with that. Right now, they come into traffic engineering, get their vehicles, get whatever tools and supplies they may need, then go to John Hunt, get those supplies, and then travel to the intersection. This allows them to get everything they need to deal with the problem in one place and go directly to the affected intersection.
So it might be labor costs as well as the travel costs and maintenance on vehicles and everything else that could potentially in the long run be impacted.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and then also just getting to that affected intersection and fixing it faster.
Yeah.
Thank you. Further discussion on Double H. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have no legal department actions. We do have non-roster communication with the public. This would be the appropriate time if you wanted to speak to the council. Ms. Reed, do you want to go first, or you're going to yield to Mr. Devenish? Go ahead. Sir, if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Tom Devenish. I live at 2807 Castle Pine Circle in Hampton Cove.
Welcome.
Thanks. I appreciate you coming out yesterday, Mark. Last night he came to the Homeowners Association meeting, and I'm not sure how he can listen to that if he has to do that every week or night or whatever.
Comes with the job, sir.
Yeah. Anyway, better you than I. I've lived out in Hampton Cove for almost 20 years. I've owned the property for longer than that. And back in 2010, I installed a fence a small fence for 2 dogs. And as part of before I installed it, I applied to have it, to get a permit from the homeowners association. Anyway, a long story short, I installed the fence. 2 years later, they sued me for putting 3 aluminum corner posts in the fence instead of brick corner posts. They had approved the fence. They had had 69 days before the fence was installed.
I'm not trying to interrupt. Who is they?
The Hampton Cove Homeowners Association Board, the HCOA board. And so they've turned the HCOA board into a private club. They selectively enforce the covenants, and as a result of them suing me in small claims or in court, I countersued them, and I ended up winning. It went before Judge Odell. But as a result of that, I had actually sued them in 2003 because they were not enforcing the covenants. And I ran for the board in 2003 when I had the lawsuit filed in small claims court. And they didn't want me to be on the board and suing them at the same time, so they amended the bylaws. I actually applied to run for the board, and then they amended the bylaws after I had applied. So now on the bylaws of the city of Huntsville, you cannot run for the HCOA board. You can't run independently. You have to apply for permission to run, and you can't run if you have sued them in the last 7 years.
Sir, I just want to stop you for a second. You said the bylaws of the city of Huntsville. I think you meant
Or the bylaws of the HCOA, but they filed it with the city of Huntsville.
Okay, thank you.
And so as a result of that, I applied to run, well, after I won the lawsuit in July of 2014, I applied to run for the board in November. And they told me on the last day, at literally 2 hours before the closing time, that I was not going to be allowed to run because of the bylaw amendment that they had put in 2003. And so I didn't get to run for the board. So,
sir, would you like another minute?
Sure.
Councilmember, is that okay? Go ahead, please.
So basically, they've turned Hampton Cove into the Hampton Cove Homeowners Association board into a private club that they selectively enforce the covenants. You can go drive through that neighborhood, and there are so many violations of the covenants, but they selectively, I mean, there are other people in that neighborhood that have aluminum corner posts in their fence. Actually, one of the houses that has aluminum corner posts in the fence was actually the next door neighbor of the HCOA board member. And so it's just turned Hampton Cove into an unpredictable situation. And there are a lot of people that have actually moved out because they didn't want to put up with the board. And it's unfortunate that new people that move into Huntsville have to go out there and find out what has happened. In fact, this last Sunday, I found out somebody from my church just bought a house in Hampton Cove. And if she had talked to me beforehand, I would have told her, don't do it.
Sir, your time's up. Do you want the council to take action, or what? Could you sum real quick?
I want the city of Huntsville, the city council, to do something to protect the homeowners of Hampton Cove, so that they have a right to run for the board, and it is no longer an exclusive club.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Elfman, if you could advise the council on what Mr. Devon is just saying.
Regrettably, these are all private covenants and private arrangements, and the city council has no authority or jurisdiction to interfere with those. regardless of how the board may be responding to you or anyone else. And I am sorry about that, but the city council would not have any ability or right to intervene or to take any action whatsoever.
And so when do they file those bylaws with the city of Huntsville? Does it go part of their development agreement, or how does it work?
Restrictive covenants are filed in the probate office, the Madison County Probate Office.
Thank you.
And bylaws just may be, the board may adopt their own bylaws, but those are approved by membership of the Owners Association, which is entirely private.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed?
Thank you. There's two issues. One of them, I would like to see who's responsible for putting the Planning Commission and all the meetings on Channel 42. We don't see that on there anymore, any of the meetings. Zoning Variance Board, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. You never see any of that on Channel 42 anymore. I would like for somebody to take charge and see if you could get that on there for the public to see if anybody's interested other than me. I also want to say that I didn't get all my answers on the downtown development, but my understanding, let's see if I'm right, and then I want to say a few words. It's a 50-year lease with a 25-year option. That makes it 75 years. Is that right?
Actually, it's a 50-year lease with 2 renewal periods.
2 renewals. That makes it 100 years.
99 years.
99 years, me. Some of us won't be here, and some of us will. But anyway,
which ones are going to be here?
I may be here. My spirit will be walking around in these council chambers. You can bet on that. Anyway, and the city's going to build a parking garage, are they?
No, ma'am. The developer's going to build the parking garage.
All of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Since you're determined to build downtown, I want to congratulate the Seelys and tell them, better them than anybody else, if it has to be done, and you're going to do it. They did well with the Belchloff, and I want to congratulate them and tell them I have nothing against them as developers. It's you all I hold accountable to the public for the dollars that's spent and what you're doing up there. So, thank you and have a good weekend.
You too. Mr. Cox?
Jerry Cox, 4029 Telstar Circle. Thank you again, Mr. President. Mr. President, as you know and most people knows, we've been at war in Afghanistan for 13 plus years. And during the long period of that time, I've come to the City Council to speak, and I'd always add in recognition of our soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen as being killed in that war. Long before that, for many years, I've used other sources to try to keep the public aware and make the public concerned about our soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen dying in Iraq and in Afghanistan. I wanted to report to the council tonight and to this public, people in Huntsville, there have been no announced deaths of military personnel in Afghanistan nor Iraq since Christmas.
That's awesome.
When the President of the United States announced an end to combat in Afghanistan after 13 years. However, for the week ending December the 21st, just before Christmas, 2 Army soldiers were killed in action in Afghanistan. Perhaps the last soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors that will be killed in that war during its 13 plus years. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
Council members, if I could just address you one last time.
Sure.
First, I want to say thank you for trusting this administration and what we do and supporting us. As we tell everyone, we can bring great ideas, but you guys are the ones that actually put it in action. And my position allows me to brief you and give these presentations, but there's a group over there on that wall that helps us every day on these projects. City attorney, finance director, planning department, engineering department, and those employees. And I just want to recognize those guys because they're always in the back, but they work just as hard as the rest of us. And just thank you.
Well said. Is there any other business that needs to come before the council? We're adjourned.